There are now more reasons than ever to look to leave the public cloud, and the biggest reason to leave is the ability to get up to 80% cost savings on moving to private infrastructure. There are a few other reasons that you would leave a public cloud. Other ones are the ability to control your destiny and your infrastructure. Maybe the public cloud doesn't have the exact size of instances that you need. So today we're going to be talking about a few of the considerations for leaving the public cloud. The first consideration is, where are you going to go? You have a few options on where you're going to go. You can be going to another public cloud, moving from AWS to Google. You could be going to a private data center that you already own, or a co-location such as Equinix, or you could be moving into a bare metal as a service provider such as Packet.net. So some of the pros and cons of each of these choices are, let's start first on moving laterally from one public cloud to another. You might get greater cost savings or more benefits from some of the feature sets they have in Google, for instance. But initially you're kind of trading one evil for another. When you're doing that, you're not getting the cost savings that you would get from moving to a more privately hosted infrastructure. The next place that you might be going is a co-location such as Equinix. Now, Equinix is great. You can move in there, but then you need to consider what hardware are you going to procure, which data centers are you going to do, and how are you going to stitch those networks together. Lastly, the option that we feel is very appealing is moving to a bare metal as a service provider such as Packet.net or SoftLayer. And in that case, you don't need to worry about the hardware and procuring it, about lease refreshing it, or even installing the OSs on those devices. So you can go to bare metal as a service such as Packet.net or SoftLayer, which will give you bare metal infrastructure as a service to deploy your workloads on. The next consideration to consider when moving out of a public cloud is, how are you going to handle the networking when you get to where you're going? Public clouds do something amazing when it comes to providing that edge networking, the security groups that you need, and a robust, highly available network for you. So moving to a private data center or even a bare metal as a service provider, you still need to consider what you're going to do for that edge networking, and to be able to get your public IPs for the services that you're doing, setting up BGP to manage all of those things, are all considerations that are very important on how that's going to be managed by you and your team. The next consideration is, how are you going to divide your infrastructure to be able to deliver those workloads to the development teams or the application teams that need to deploy their applications. Some of the ways that you would divide that workload would be to deploy an OpenStack or Kubernetes-based layer to get either virtual machines or containers inside of this environment. Other ways would be to actually run your applications directly on those bare metal servers. So thinking of how you're going to do this and keeping an API-driven, API-centric way of doing this is very important. The next consideration that you need to be looking into is, what is your disaster recovery strategy? So one of the things that's great about the public clouds is that they have multiple sites and regions for you to be able to replicate and copy your data to. And you can still leverage that as part of your moving out of the public cloud by keeping your DR into the public cloud. Or you can choose to utilize the other infrastructure that you have available to you, such as a private data center or a bare metal as a service provider, to replicate and back up that data off-site. And that's the most important thing about your disaster recovery process is the data needs to be off-site, and you should have an automated way to restore production in another location or another geographic region. One of the next considerations is that you need to understand how to operationalize all of this. So no matter where you're moving, whether it's to another public cloud, to a colo, or to a bare metal as a service provider, you need to make sure that you have operationalized the deployment of your infrastructure, your networking, all of your configuration management, so that you're not throwing bodies at the problem. You're actually managing your infrastructure more like the public clouds are managing theirs, by highly automating it, version controlling it, and rolling it out widely. And lastly, obviously most important, is your data. How are you going to move your data out of the public cloud that it's in today? And this is by far the most hard and complex situation. You need to have a solid plan around it, whether you're doing replication or backup and restore. This is really case-by-case basis, but having a solid plan on how you can roll that data out of the public clouds and into your new production environment is key to having a successful migration. So here at Platform 9, we've used these considerations in the past to move not only our own infrastructure out of the public clouds, but onto private infrastructure, but also our customers, and we've helped them day to day. So hopefully you found these points useful, and good luck with your migration.